But I have no doubt in my mind, contrary to whatever Manish feels, I have no doubt in my mind that this digital India enhances accountability.
You wanted to react to that, Jay?
I just wanted to say that, we heard the phrase that government is not capable of dealing with this, doesn't have this. I agree with that. Two things I want to say about this. One is, with a large number of people being connected online, there are going to be a lot of bottom-up processes that are going to start happening. So it's the whole idea that government should structure the engagement with citizens is going to get overtaken by a lot of bottom-up structures. Second thing is, yes, because government is not ready, something has to give. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because what government has become is ossified, and something has to give. If thousands and hundreds of thousands of citizens get together and push back using digital infrastructure, some cracks are going to start developing, and that is what will bring about the re-engineering that we are talking about.
Yeah. I just want to pick up on a comment that, Pawan made. That, you talked about, you said that there's one room where 500 people sit and they start manufacturing campaigns, pro something or anti something. And, this is where I'd come to this net neutrality debate. I don't want to get into whether net neutrality is a good thing or a bad thing. Frankly, that's for the next, discussion that we'll have. But, you had a lot of, as you said, Jay, that you don't expect a lot of MPs to know what net neutrality is until it becomes a big enough thing, and then they start saying, okay, what exactly is this animal here? Now, when you've got 1.1 million hits coming up, before the TRAI, and a lot of 1.1 million responses, when a lot of them look very similar, how do you as an MP react to that? As Pawan said, a lot of this could be manufactured out of one room. And if you forget about these 1.1 million responses, if you look at, unfortunately, I think Rajan has left, but if you look at what the telcos are doing, they are trying a missed call response, and I don't know what their numbers are, but they are hoping to get 1 crore missed calls to show that they are in the right about net neutrality. So the question really here is that, that was an aside which said it was more voce than sotto, but it said like the BJP's membership drive, in case you didn't get it.
I'll answer that.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so the point is that when you have big organized campaigns of this sort taking place, one, how do MPs figure out what's going on? Because as Pawan said, there's a lot of wrong stuff out there. I mean, there's sort of just blatant lies being put out there. So when you don't have the mainline media to filter it out, how do you do? That's point number one. Point number two is that how do you actually create a campaign? Again, taking off from what Pawan said, how do you create a campaign for something which the Twitterati is not excited about? As he said, if there's so many villages which are not connected, you never get to know what their problems are. If you want to create a campaign to get the government to respond to the need for more irrigation, how do you do it? Because maybe your farmers are not in it. And lastly, coming from this, maybe in the next round is, how many of you have actually run a campaign, as it were? So let's say the NDMC is not responding to your votes. Do you start getting people to say, okay, why don't we send tweets to the MDMC head, just to get him activated? It's like the same way people are propositioning you, or are approaching you. Propositioning is not the right word. The same way that people are approaching you to get you to act. Do you start getting your constituents to, put out those messages to other people to get them to act? We can start with you, Jay.
Let me say that. Look, disinformation is not a 21st century invention.
It is my birthright, and I shall have it.
Right? And you look back at...
So you guys didn't start it, is what he's saying.
No, my point is, you look back at history and you'll find many disinformation campaigns in many different ways. Now, the argument that corporates or deep pockets can somehow capture the dialogue or capture the debate, whether net neutrality or anything else, is, yes, there's a danger. They have deep pockets. They can organize these campaigns that look like most people are supporting non-net neutrality. But the answer to that is more sunlight. More sunlight.
Yeah, absolutely.
The best disinfectant, as they say, is sunlight. So the answer that transparency will get captured by deep pockets is you must have more transparency, more connectivity, and certain things that mainstream media doesn't cover can get exposed through lots of individual citizens, because the paradigm has changed. The paradigm is not just that you as an editor decide what we all read. Everybody here is an editor, everybody here is a correspondent. And they start posting, whether it is about whether somebody should get bail or whether some traffic accident took place or didn't take place or all kinds of things.
No,
right?
I'm just saying that how do you actually decipher
right.
the...
So I'm coming to that. So it is possible that initially a dialogue can get cornered by deep-pocketed vested interests. But I don't think that can sustain. Now, yes, you can maybe have an influence on policy making or regulations for a year or 2 years and divert it. But the more people that are connected, it is, you can't fool all the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but not all the people all the time. So the more people that you have, the less sustainable strategies are there going to be for corporates or telcos or anybody to grab it.
Yeah. And my other question is that have you ever been able to run a campaign to get somebody to do work?
So I've been involved in 2 or 3 different such campaigns. Net neutrality is one, because I've been involved with the subject for many years.
Let's say, like somebody wants something done in your village. It doesn't get done, but it's not actually your job. So
of course.
You put pressure on somebody through
all the time.
Through a campaign.
Not only through a campaign, I use social media extensively, and I started doing it years ago, even though my constituents weren't very much on social media. I'll give you an example. Up until a year ago, I had some tens of thousands of people on my Facebook page, and mostly non-ODIAs. Today, I have several lakhs, and mostly ODIAs. Just in the space of 1 year, it has dramatically changed. And I use that as a campaign. So, for example, the meetings that I hold with district officials, which I'm entitled to as an MP, I'm entitled to chair certain meetings. I make them transparent. I engage people online, offline through it. And a lot of the things that we have to do is with moral authority and with political authority, not with executive authority. Obviously, we MPs don't have executive authority. We can't go and say, I sanction this bridge for 200 crores. It's not going to happen. But you can do a lot of things. For example, you go to a village, occasionally you will find certain poorer sections of the village still don't have electricity. The better off sections of the village have electricity. So naming and shaming and using the district review meetings as a forum. By the way, when I have a district review meeting, it's in a hall more or less this size. What I do is, we chair a meeting exactly like this. We are on a dais like this and the officers are there. But to engage people, we put loudspeakers outside the building, so that everything we are discussing, and this is an innovation that I brought about. So what happens, we may be 100 people inside the room, but usually there are 2,000 people outside the room listening to what dialogue is going on, why this road is not built and why that village is not fully electrified. That puts immense pressure on the administration, so that we don't have the executive authority, but we can bring to bear immense political and moral authority to the job.
Meenakshi, you want to comment on that?
Many things. Firstly, what Mr. Verma started with the campaign of the BJP, the enrollment campaign, the membership drive. I would say, see, we learned the use of social media, which was, I would say, it was an opportunity, but also a necessity for us, because mainstream media was not doing what we wanted our communications to happen with the constituents. So that's where we started using social media. Marta kya nahi karta. It started with that, because newspapers will not publish your articles.
Yeah, but I think Pawan is joking, so let's not get into that.
No. I'm making a very serious comment. If something is being carried on by the mainstream media as a campaign, how do I counter it, especially when I'm in the opposition? The only way I could counter it was by using the social media, and we used it effectively. And coming from there, the 10 crore people who have enlisted as part of membership of the BJP, they are going to be verified physically on the ground, and all that material we want people to know should reach them. For example, the current account deficit, if has gone down, whole price index has gone in minus, a whole lot of money which has come to this country by coal auction, spectrum auction, is not being propagated in that sense, and on the contrary, a corporates ki sarkar, Sudbut ki sarkar kind of comments are made by...
Bazaru media is not helping.
No, I'm not saying Bazaru. I will not call media
Bazaru. Just stick to the point that we are talking about.
I am saying social media is a tool which needs to be used effectively to reach out to the people. It empowers everyone. And the groundwork needs to be done simultaneously. It's not as if, as Manish rightly pointed out, that if a particular pipe needs to be fixed, if there's a leakage, if there's a sewage disposal which is not happening the right way, then that has to be done physically. It is a tool of information, but the work needs to be done on the ground, and people need to be more effective.
Do you sort of respond to your constituent that this guy is not doing it, what do I do?
No. I don't do that. I'm just sharing it with you. And
a million people on Twitter.
No, I will not do that. I will say, okay, and I'll give you an example. The pink and the green curves which NDMC did, and very nicely they painted it as BJP's job. So then I tweeted, I said, I don't know whether so-and-so is a colorblind or what's ailing so-and-so, because if I were to paint it, I'll paint them saffron and not pink. There is a difference. And this kind of malicious campaign being run, because this was an attempt to cover some other scam, because red sandstone curbs were put.
But to come to
so you use social media to counter such allegations and accusations which repeatedly seem to appear in the mainstream media, and also communicate on the right policy. And it is in this sense social media becomes responsible. And then in the hindsight, I can say that even bureaucrats have to somewhere attempt to either manage their image or get down to work, and they do it. They finally do it, and then they said that, ma'am, we can't sanction it in this year. Next year we will repaint it. I said, but any accident that may happen because of non-painting of the curbs yellow and black, because that is the color which you should paint it in. These kinds of campaign constantly happen, and you do respond. I think my constituency is slightly different from rest of the country, and people expect you to respond in an email. People, even if it is not a long letter, but you say, okay, I forwarded it to so and so.
Okay, one quick question here. Given the speed at which opinion gets built up on social media,
Yeah.
Is there any example where you've actually felt that this is completely the wrong idea and you've been able to counter it or tried to counter it and been successful?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The example was a ban on Nirbhaya's movie. What was that? What was the name? India's Daughters. And what was the India's Daughter? What was the name of the lady who made it? Yeah, BBC journalist. I'm just not getting her name. So I did it, and single-handedly did that. And in fact,
you single-handedly said we should ban it or we shouldn't ban it?
We shouldn't. You see, the question was not on propriety of the ban or impropriety, but why the ban was put in the first place. That was completely lost. Nobody knew why the ban was. There are 50 such movies which have been made on this subject, and none of those movies have been banned. The subject why this movie was banned was entirely different. The lady had violated the law. She had taken permission to shoot in the high security Tihar jail, stating it is only for educational purposes. It was not supposed to be a commercial venture. She had given an undertaking to the court that these problems will be addressed, and she went completely overboard with that, and in fact predated it. So single-handedly you changed the complete dialogue, because it was shown as if India is against freedom of speech and discussion on this subject, which was not true. We all debated this subject. I think 3 of the people, at least on this dais, participated on Nirbhaya discussion and changed the law of the land. And after changing the law of the land, this was the worldwide response, that as if India is a country which does not...
Okay, I take your point. Manish, do you have any points to make on this? In terms of, as I said, to get back to what Pawan
Leslie
said.
Odwin.
That, when you have a campaign which is coming up and it becoming big, you don't know to what extent that's true. Does that force you to sort of put your position in that way? Have you been able to counter it? How does a politician actually react to something like this?
Look, trolls are a reality of life. So therefore, if you're going to have a proliferation of the new media, you will have to live with the phenomena of trolls that some people will organize, some people will orchestrate. And there would be campaigns which would be carried out, some malicious, some positive. So, that's par for the course. You cannot really pick and choose as to what part of the new media you like and what part of the new media you would like to discount. Life is about a package, and that's what the new media is. See, on this whole question of public representatives getting pressurized or sensitized to the views of their constituents on a particular issue, and that dictating their policy choices, is not something which is a sequitur in the Indian system. For the simple reason that you don't vote according to your conscience. You vote according to a whip which is issued by a party. And if you decide to violate the whip,
then you're out.
You do it at your own peril. So therefore, you see, this whole paradigm is a completely alien paradigm to the Indian context, as long as the 10th schedule remains in place. In any case, what the 10th schedule has been able to do is that it has been able to emasculate any innovative policy making by the legislature across the board. Number two, let us even suppose that the 10th schedule did not exist and you were voting according to your constituency preferences or the pressure which was coming. Public pressure is not always right. What a bulk of the people say does not essentially make it correct. In fact, there is an excellent book by John F. Kennedy called Profiles of Courage. It's worth reading. It is about legislators or parliamentarians who have voted against what was the popular sentiment in the country or in their particular area. So I think, the whole question is not black and white, or it is not binary. It is not as if because 100,000 people are telling you do this, you essentially have to do it. You have to exercise your discretion. You have to exercise your right to decide what is right and wrong. Sift. And insofar as identification of trolls is concerned, I guess over a period of time it will minus itself out, because one set of trolls, your troll, my troll will minus that out. So these are all passing phenomena in the evolution of this virtual civilization.
Pawan, any comments on that? And on also whether MPs should carry out a campaign to get rid of, and that only have a whip on money bills. So why not? It sounds like a good idea.
Oh, that was actually the subject of one of my private members' bills. Which is,
I think it's a campaign that can be carried out, except that I don't fully agree that it's required. So we can have a separate debate on that. I have nothing really to add now, except to say that those who use this media more can also probably influence the public opinion in matters which you need to oppose. I mean, I really see this great lack of equity sometimes. Better equipped political machineries can use it more, others can use it less. I say this not as a critique, not to have a political debate, but recently the social media was used very considerably to name the number of Jan Dhan accounts that have been opened. And it was an achievement, and I really think that in part it is an achievement. But to a parliament question which I got in response, it's confirmed one of my fears that out of those 14 odd crores, close to 9 crores were zero balance, zero transaction. So information is a very, very malleable, it's a plasticine. And you have a very powerful engine to disseminate it. Who is there to audit it? Who can influence people more? People who deal with people in politics have to deal with this every day. I just want to end that on a cautionary.
So we'll open it up to the, do we have floor mics?
Well, I'm Rakesh Mehrotra. two critical questions, since I am talking to the MPs. First, how many of these tweets, etc., you really read it? How many of these tweets and the emails and all those things, because you get in thousands and thousands, really look at that. That's one. Second thing is that we are talking to the legislatures. You are talking about the lethargy in the system. The system has gone wrong and these things are not happening. To whom we should look at? We can look only at the legislatures, on all our MPs, MLAs and all those. As a common man, where should we go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me answer the first part. That's a great question. As to how many of those tweets and posts we actually read. As I said, most politicians are getting dragged kicking and screaming into the digital age, and the majority don't actually operate their own handles themselves. Majority have somebody operating it for them. Now, this is understandable when somebody is in a high executive position. You don't expect the Prime Minister to be handling his own thing. For him to have assistance is fine. What I find odd is even quite a few younger MPs and other next gen politicians who are not in executive positions, who have more time, don't do it. But only a handful of us actually do.